Jamal Khashoggi, a U.S. resident who wrote for the Washington Post, disappeared on October 2nd. Now, he's originally from Saudi Arabia, but he's lived in exile in the United States, and he's been a harsh critic of the Saudi government. He entered the Saudi consulate in Istanbul to get papers related to his upcoming marriage, and his fiancée was waiting outside, but she says he never came out. Turkish media reports say that he was killed by a team of hitmen from Saudi Arabia. On top of that, there's also a report saying that he managed to record the murder using his Apple Watch. The CBC's Stephen D'Souza has more on that and on Trump's warning for the Saudi kingdom.
This is some of the strongest language we've heard from the American president on this situation, and it comes in an interview to be aired tomorrow night on 60 Minutes. And in the interview, he talked about how this is being investigated and that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, actually called Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the de facto ruler of the country, to ask him directly if he was involved in. Trump says that he denied all involvement. Of course, bin Salman has been accused of orchestrating the alleged assassination. Now, that point that Trump brings up, that his son-in-law was able to call the Crown Prince, shows the closeness of the relationship, but also gives an example of the reluctance of why Trump has not spoken out more forcefully about this, because they have such a close relationship with Saudi Arabia. Trump, in the interview with 60 Minutes, was asked directly what's at stake. Here's what he had to say.
There's a lot at stake, and maybe especially so because this man was a reporter. There's something, you'll be surprised to hear me say that, there's something really terrible and disgusting about that if that were the case. So we're going to have to see. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be severe punishment.
Now, Trump, up until this point, has been hedging his language because Saudi Arabia is a close ally in the region. It was the location of his first foreign trip as president. He even hosted Mohammed bin Salman earlier this year in Washington. And he also mentioned, Trump did earlier this week, as well as in the 60 Minutes interview, the close economic relationship, bringing up a $110 billion arms deal that the U.S. has with Saudi Arabia, and that Trump wouldn't want to jeopardize the jobs that would come as a result of that trade deal. This, of course, comes as many U.S. senators are calling on the president to impose sanctions on Saudi Arabia over this incident. Trump, for his part, has said that there may be other forms of punishment should it come to that.
And so we've seen global reaction there. But in terms of the investigation also, there's word that, of course, Turkey is really trying to get to the bottom of what exactly happened. So what's the latest on that front?
Well, there is a Saudi team on the ground working with Turkey on an investigation. Turkish officials are saying they want to have access to the consulate, but there also is a report in a main Turkish newspaper that is linked closely to the government that says that Jamal Khashoggi went into the consulate with his Apple Watch, recording video and audio of what took place, and that video and audio was then uploaded to the cloud as well as to his iPhone, which was being held by his fiancée, who was sitting outside of the consulate. Now, technical folks say that this is not necessarily possible, and so they question the account in the Turkish newspaper, thinking perhaps this is coming from the government itself and that they're trying to cover perhaps the real reason that they may have these alleged recordings of what happened. But it's going to put pressure on Turkey not only to reveal potential sources of this information that they say they have, but also Saudi Arabia to explain why there's no evidence of Khashoggi leaving the consulate. The Interior Minister of Saudi Arabia said today that this is all just lies and that these are just false allegations. But they did, in the statement put out today, at least admit that they have been accused of the disappearance of the Saudi journalist.